everybody to our extraordinary council meeting of the 23rd of February. If we could all please stand for our opening karakia.
Tu taua mai I runga, tu taua mai I raro, tu taua mai I roto, tu taua mai I waho. Kia tau ai te Māori tū, te Māori ora, ki te katoa. Hoi e, hui e, tā ki e.
So we have no apologies today, and we have Councillor Bogue joining us via Zoom. So welcome, Councillor Bogue. Are there any conflicts of interest? First, I'd just like to open the meeting by saying thank you to our community. Thank you to our community for their patience, for their resilience, for their courage that they have displayed over the last 10 days. Thank you to everyone who is wrapping their arms around and supporting those who have been severely impacted by this disaster. I have heard so many incredible stories of community spirit. I would also like to extend our sincere sympathy and condolences to those who have lost loved ones, lost homes, lost livelihood. We are all thinking of you. A number of the councillors would have liked to have been able to show support today at Tongoio Marae as the hapu conduct their whakamoemiti in preparation for the demolition of their marae. Again, our araha and thoughts are with all of you. It's certainly been a long 10 days for everyone, and our overarching focus has been very much on responding to the needs and welfare and well-being of our community. We have been working very closely with Hastings and other areas in our wider community, as well as Te Tai Whenua, the Regional Council, police, FENZ, and other central government agencies. Myself and the Chief Executive have begun to turn our minds to recovery. It is important to remember that our Napier community was without power for much longer than Hastings and Central Hawke's Bay. We literally had to go out door knocking to find staff to work in our emergency operations centre because there was no other way of contacting them. So I do ask for continued patience from the community as we move into the recovery phase. We are working as fast as we can. We know it will be a long road to recovery, and we will be actively responding to support packages, including financial packages, as they open up. We have a large number of our staff working on the emergency response, and we will hear more about this from Rachel Bailey, the Emergency Operations Centre Controller, later in this meeting. As we start moving into recovery, we are transitioning some work streams from the response team back to our council BAU. And that means where we will start to be able over the coming weeks to bring council facilities back online when it is appropriate. To finish, I want to say thank you to all of our staff. I know you've been working long hours, going above and beyond to look after our community, and this will continue for some time yet. So I also just want to say to all our staff and to all of our community, please look after yourselves. Please ensure that your well-being and the well-being of your whānau is front and foremost in your mind, because it's important that we keep ourselves well. And we will pull through this together. So kia kaha and thank you. Are there any announcements by management?
No, I just want to endorse the superb effort from the staff over the last little while that Kirsten has referred to. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Any minor matters not on the agenda? Confirmation of the draft minutes of the ordinary meeting of council held on Thursday the 2nd of February. If I could have a mover and seconder, please. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Brosnan and Councillor Taylor. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Moving on to our agenda items. First up, we have the 2022-2025 triennial agreement. The council officer to be reporting on this was Anna Eadie, who is currently working in our emergency ops teams. Just to give it a very brief outline, this is of course our triennial agreement with our neighbouring Hawke's Bay councils, which we review at the start of each triennium to assure ourselves that we are still focusing on the key priorities at a regional level that we're committing to work together on. And it is very much aligned to our Matariki economic and social development policy and the governance committee and management committee, etc., that deliver on that. So it really is just ensuring that we continue to work alongside our neighbouring Hawke's Bay councils on these areas. Are there any questions? And we do have Caroline here. Thank you, Caroline, for stepping in. And if there's any questions that we can't answer today, we will of course take an action and get those responded to as quickly as we can. Councillor Simpson.
Not a question as such, Your Worship, sorry. But in a former life, I just want to represent that this document is not just a bit of bureaucracy. It's not a case of following Section 15 of the Local Government Act. Previously, this document has provided good base for the councils to work together in non-emergency environments, but also acts as a fine foundation during an emergency from which we springboard into greater action. So I just wanted to clarify that this document is not just bureaucracy. It is actually a really useful tool to ensure that not only the larger neighbours get on, but we actually work well with the more rural environments of our region. So I just want to endorse the document for its usefulness and the role that it does actually play in good local governance.
Thank you, Councillor Simpson. Any further questions or comments? Could I have actually I will move from the chair, seconded by Councillor Simpson. I guess, yes, fully support the comments made by Councillor Simpson. This isn't just a piece of paper that sits on a shelf and gathers dust. It really is a living, breathing document that we all collectively commit to and helps us guide our regional planning and decision making. Councillor Simpson, did you have anything further to add?
No, I'm happy, thank you.
Did anyone else wish to make any comments? No. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Our next agenda item is the rates remission in response to significant extraordinary circumstances, and I'd welcome Gary to join Caroline to just present the paper, please, Gary.
Sorry. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay, so the purpose of this report is to seek delegation from Council to approve rates remission in response to significant extraordinary circumstances, in this case, Cyclone Gabriel. Unfortunately, it isn't the first time we've made a request to Council seeking to activate this remission. After the November 2020 floods, we set up a process of providing a full remission for condemned properties. Those that were deemed insanitary, we provided a partial remission with a review at the end of the quarter to see if people were able to use their property. If the status remained unchanged, the balance of their rates for that rating year were remitted. The system worked and we'd like to utilise it again. At this early stage, we don't have complete data on how many properties have been impacted. During the floods in 2020, we recorded approximately 100 properties, and the amount of 200,000 is also based on our approach during the floods. So there are 7 points that need to be addressed as part of the resolution, and to provide some guidance on points 4 to 7, council officers would recommend that the remission apply to all types of rating units, target individual rating units through both an application process and identification by council to give them some flexibility. Have it apply for rates instalments 3 and 4 with the option to extend it for a full year for yellow stickered properties and a full year for red stickered properties, and have the amount be based on rates demand for each impacted property. Sorry. Please note that any relief package will be sourced from unbudgeted funding as well. So I'll take the remainder of the report as read. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gary. And so just to provide clarity, the remission process will be on a case-by-case basis, won't it?
That's correct.
Any further? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Brosnan.
Thank you, Gary, for a very good paper and set of recommendations. Just a question from me around closing the loop and how that reporting will come back to council. Could you run that through for me, please?
Of course. So we have a building team out there doing inspections as quickly as possible of all the properties impacted. We've also got information coming through from FENS on those properties that have been impacted. And so typically what we did last time, I hate to say last time, is that we checked out the applications, and we also correlated against the information we had off the master list. Where we couldn't get in contact with property owners, whether they had departed the region or for whatever other reason, we basically made a call on what to do with those. So yeah, it's a combination of between FENS, our properties team, and ourselves with the information we have to apply those.
Thank you. And through you, Mayor Wise, just to clarify, would you say the numbers or the effect or the effectiveness of the rates for emission coming back to us through quarterly reporting or 6-weekly reporting at committee, or how would you see that feeding back through?
There's flexibility there depending on the need of council, so that we can do it quarterly or 6-weekly. It just, yeah, quarterly would be fine. It just depends on what you would like to see.
Could we, through you, Mayor Wise, just note that in the minutes that we would see it come back quarterly? Thank you.
Councillor Simpson and then Councillor Crystal.
Through you, Madam Chair, I just wanted to clarify the recommendation A. It states have been displaced permanently. I just wanted to clarify what being displaced permanently means, because that wording's not actually used in the policy.
Through you, Your Worship. So in terms of permanently, that is for people that typically in the foreseeable future won't be able to use their property, but also within the recommendations of ensuring that people that are displaced for a certain amount of time, we're trying to provide some flexibility there, but also recognising that some properties have been, utterly destroyed. So the definition is flexible. It's essentially whatever we would like to make it in this situation.
Yeah, and I do recognise that the policy allows discretion of the managers we delegate authority to, so I'm happy with that explanation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Crystal.
Just for the people out there, do the people have to apply to us, or are we actually going to, the ones we know of, contact them directly?
Through you, Madam Mayor. So again, with this approach, it can be both. There are some places at the moment that can't receive mail. We don't know whether they've necessarily got email, that sort of thing. And so we will try to reach out to them. But through the application process, it also does give us a greater insight into the needs of the community. And so if possible, that would be the first best approach that we would like to take.
Okay. Any further questions? So, Gary, just with regards to points 4 through 7, as you just outlined and obviously provided us with some recommendations, and they need to be incorporated into the resolution.
That's correct.
So I just wonder if we could, because we will need some wording here for Carolyn to actually add to the resolution.
Of course.
Because your recommendation, and forgive me if I've missed it, but the recommendations aren't actually included in the paper.
So I've made note of them through there, but it hasn't been as clear as it possibly, or as it should have been, I suppose.
Well, no,
So-
we understand everyone's been very busy doing other things, so it's no criticism whatsoever.
So in terms of the resolution, the first 3 points of the resolution is really just to acknowledge that we have got a situation of significant extraordinary circumstances, namely Cyclone Gabriel and the after effects of that. And that there is a large portion of the community that will be impacted by it, the ones that have experienced flooding, landslides, that sort of thing, which can be summarised. And then really it is just getting into saying that it will apply to all rating units and just that the process will be followed. So I can provide a little bit of, when Carolyn is ready.
Yeah,
information on it.
we could just,
So are you saying you want one?
yeah, but we need to specify in the we need to specify in the resolution that it will apply, the policy will apply to all rating units. It's not in there.
No. And that it's been triggered as a result of Cyclone Gabriel. That's,
We'll do that for now, and then we might
Yeah.
just need to play around with it a little bit, but make
Yeah.
it a G for now. So all rating units,
yep. And also it'll be individual applications, both from the community and also proactively by council were identified. It will initially apply,
yep,
it will,
just wait,
Okay.
we'll let Carolyn catch up.
So can you just say it's all individual applications and
and also proactively identified by council.
We can play around with it. Yep, the next part of the recommendation?
Okay. And so it will be as it's all rating, all affected rating units.
Yep.
And that will essentially be those that have been red stickered or yellow stickered, so insanitary or condemned. And for,
Is that within the policy itself? We might not need it within the
no, it's not
resolution.
within the policy. The
Okay.
policy allows for quite a large, it's designed to be responsive to whatever the conditions are, so
Right.
it doesn't specifically say that. And so for insanitary properties, installments 3 and 4, for condemned properties,
Slow down. So insanitary instalment 3 and 4. Insanitary properties,
yeah.
instalment 3 and 4. Instalment, so it's the rates.
Rates installment 3 and 4. And condemned properties, the full rating year.
The full rating year.
And the remission will be based on the rates demand for that property.
And did you also earlier comment about that being, can be reviewed?
That's correct. So, I was just waiting for it to go through.
Oh, yeah.
For insanitary properties, if they're unable to be inhabited beyond the end of, at the end of Q4, that an additional remission can be applied for a full rating year.
sanitary properties are going to be inhibited at the end of the fourth quarter.
End of the fourth quarter, they can apply for the remission?
For
What
a
was-
second remission,
For a second remission,
yes, for a full rating year.
for a full rating year. And we also have point 7, which is around the amount, is either a fixed amount, percentage, and or maximum amount. So what was the recommendation?
So the remission is based on the rates demand for that property.
Which you just included then. Excellent. So have we covered off the key points?
You have, your worship. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If we could just read that out, I suspect it's going to need a little bit of wordsmithing, but if we,
I've just done them as bullets type of thing.
yeah,
So we've got the policy will apply to all rating units, individual applications and proactively identified by council, all effective rating units, those red, yellow and yellow stickered, insanitary properties, instalments 3 and 4 and condemned properties for the full rating year. Remission will be based on rate demand for that property, and sanitary properties, if unable to be inhabited at the end of the fourth quarter, can apply for a second remission for a full rating year.
It's pretty close. Are we able to bring it up on the screen? Just, it's much easier when you can actually read it. Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, that's right. I'll just find
And
where
while
my-
you do that, Councillor Brown, did you have?
Potentially just getting a little confused here, but just in terms of the different definitions, does red stickered mean condemned anyway and yellow stickered mean insanitary? And could we just combine them into saying red stickered and yellow stickered for clarity? Or does leaving those other ones,
Yeah, so
open it up?
the condemned, you can avoid the red sticker, yellow sticker, and just go condemned
insanitary.
or insanitary would be the cleanest way to do it.
Yellow stick, not necessarily insanitary.
Councillor Price.
Just, when you, after the first year, you can get an extension for a red sticker or condemned. For a full year, would it always be for a full year or could it be a part year?
Through you, Your Worship. So when it comes to the next rating year, we haven't looked that far ahead yet, but the thing is that we can always come back and review this and look at the arrangements and possibly put something else in place. We just don't know what's going to happen yet, so rather than put that in writing, find out what the situation is first and then respond to the community as appropriate.
So it doesn't commit us to having to pay a full year if it's not required? Or refund a full year?
So for the properties that have been condemned, it will be a long while before anybody is able to use those again. Once it's cleared, rebuilding commences. So it's reasonable to say that, for the 22-23 rating year that they don't pay their rates, but we're just not sure of what the situation is going to be for 23-24 yet.
You just give us a moment, we'll do a little bit of wordsmithing and
May I ask a question, please?
yes, go, Councillor Bogue, sorry.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm not quite sure if this is the right place to ask it, but I'm wondering if people's houses have been flooded after this, because of this event, and their houses deemed partly usable or whatever, do they have an obligation? Do we allow them to build on what is basically a floodplain again? Is that something that we have control over?
Through the Mayor, that not at this, through this policy. So that would be through your district plan.
Okay. So I can find the answer to that question somewhere else.
Yeah, if you, I guess if we're thinking about the floodplain issue, that's probably going to be something that will be done probably as a region actually, in this case, and will come through the recovery processes. And so that will be dealt with in the future, but it will be outside of the rates remission policy.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll get you to read that out.
Oh, it's on the screen.
Oh,
It's on the screen. Do you want me to read it?
yeah, if you wouldn't mind.
And the G that we've just included is, note that the policy will apply to all rating units for individual applications and those proactively identified by council. The policy applies to all affected rating properties, those being condemned and unsanitary properties. Remission will be based on rate demand for that property, with remission of instalments 3 and 4 for unsanitary properties and the full rating year for condemned properties. Those unsanitary properties unable to be inhabited at the end of the fourth quarter can apply for a second remission for a full rating year.
Unable to be habited.
Unable to be
And
habited.
Oh,
Double negative.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor.
I was
Sorry.
just going to check in, Gary. Does that cover everything?
So for that very last sentence, at the end of the fourth quarter, can apply for a second remission for the remainder of the rating year.
Remainder. Thank you.
Yeah.
isn't the fourth quarter the end of the rating?
Yeah, it's a very good point, Councillor Crystal. Isn't the fourth quarter the end of the rating year?
It is, Your Worship. However, what we did last time, because it occurred around the same time that we put the remission in place, is that people will get a credit on their rates account, which means that when the rates are set for the new rating year, they've effectively got a credit on it for some time. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So I think we've managed to capture all those recommendations that we needed to and add them to our resolution. Could I please have a mover and seconder? Thank you, Councillor Gregg and Deputy Mayor Brosnan. Councillor Gregg, would you like to speak to that? Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you. Just briefly, I think this is a small step that we can do as a council to acknowledge those properties affected. I think the depth and the breadth of the issues that communities are facing and those homeowners and those people who live in those homes, which aren't always the same groups of people, but the effects on them is horrific, and this won't be a drop in the ocean for them, but it is something that we can do as a council just to say that we are thinking about you, we care, and we're looking after you how we can. So appreciate all your very quick work, Gary, to pull this together. And like you say, it's not nice to be doing this for a second time in a short succession, and that just really goes to show the unfairness of how this has hit us a couple of times in short succession. So thank you for your work, and fully support the recommendations that you and the Mayor have come up with there. I think that's very appropriate. Thank you.
Councillor Crown.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to speak in support of this and concur with the comments made by Deputy Mayor Brosnan. The other thing that I just wanted to draw attention to as we see this resolution through is the fact that we do have the ability to review this when needed. I think that closing the loop and making sure that we're monitoring and reviewing what the remissions look like quarterly is a really important part of that process, so that we're able to understand exactly where the pinch points are and how we can best use the tools that we have available to us. So thank you to the team for all your work on this. I know administration-wise, trying to line things up and make things work within the policy isn't always the easiest too when you're doing the doing, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crown. Any further speakers to the motion? I'll therefore put that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. And I'd just like to say thank you, Caroline and Gary. I know both of you have been working in the EOC, so really appreciate that you were able to pull together this so quickly for us to be able to adopt it today for our community to access this relief that so many of them need. So thank you to both of you.
Thank you.
And moving on to our final agenda item, we are having a verbal update on the Cyclone Gabrielle response. We have with us Rachel Bailey, who is actually meant to be having a day off today. So thank you so much, Rachel, for coming in. So Rachel has been one of our controllers in the EOC alongside Russell Bond, who's also joining us, Steve Gregory, Thunis Pluti. Sorry if I've pronounced your surname wrong. I've got your first name nailed, but have I missed any of the controllers?
No, that's
the
a lot. We
four.
have had support, which we've really appreciated from NEMA and from other experienced controllers and other councils. So.
Yeah. And I guess the reason I wanted to name each of you individually is acknowledging that the whole team that's been working on our emergency response is absolutely incredible, but I know that the role of controller is very, very challenging at times, and every single one of you has stepped up. You've been covering the shifts 24/7, and a sincere thank you from myself, and I'm sure I speak on behalf of all of the councillors, just to acknowledge all the mahi and hard work that you have been doing, and the whole team there at the post office has been doing over the past 11 days if you count Monday night. So yeah, thank you so very much.
Yeah, thank you. That's really appreciated. Yes, I know you normally see me in a different role in front of you today, but yeah, I'm one of the local controllers for our Napier Emergency Operations Centre, or EOC as we call it. Civil Defence is quite a wide family, so each council will step up an EOC if they're impacted, and we're under the umbrella of a group, Civil Defence, a regional, Civil Defence group. But it also includes all of our emergency services and all of our volunteer groups. So there's a large contingent that make up a civil defence response, particularly for an event of this scale. The Emergency Operations Centre was actually set up on the Sunday in anticipation of Cyclone Gabrielle, and it was fully operational from sort of Monday. I was on the night shift on that on the 13th when the cyclone hit, and as you know, the intensity of it was could not have been foreseen or forecasted. It scaled up so fast, and we responded with everything we had and as best we could. Last week, so following that time and last week, we were in what's called a crisis response. And like every other agency and every member of our community and our emergency services, we put everything into helping our community to handle what was coming at them. The challenge in front of us was things we hadn't encountered before, a complete loss of communications, and all power was out. So we pulled in every person we could, but the numbers were limited. As you can appreciate, people had to deal with what was in front of them in their houses and their families first. And also, of those that we could contact, some of them were isolated from Napier. But, you know, the good news is that we have reached a more stable and what we call a considered response, but we're still in a response phase, but starting to put our mind to recovery. Our focus is wholly on the community of Napier and wider, where we're partnering with the Hastings Emergency Operations Centre to support shared communities such as East Valley and Puketapu. So last Sunday we established a small hub of our Emergency Operations Centre in Bayview, recognising that that community as well as the East Valley community would need considerable support. And yesterday, controllers agreed that we would set up another hub of the same sort of operation into East Valley, and that should be setting up today. Both Bayview hubs and East Valley hubs will have Hastings EOC and Napier EOC staff at them. It is very much a combined response. We've also supporting our Hastings neighbours with, as they have a number of communities in those more rural areas that are still don't have quite the support they need. Some of them are still isolated, and so we are giving support to Puketapu, predominantly in the north at this stage because of access issues to the south, but we're working with HDC to get around the whole community. So these smaller hubs are really an extension of our operations centre here in Napier, and they're primarily focused on logistical support, supplies, welfare and operations. We have surged food and supplies into our community and to our mana whenua partners who, I must say, are doing an incredible job. The way that they mobilise and get into the community is phenomenal, and we're very grateful to have their work with us. The scale of the food and supplies that have gone into our community is enormous, but in an event of this scale, the demand and the urgency is always greater than what we can anticipate, what we can deliver on, and we are trying to do our very best to get what needs to be where it needs to be. I've been so encouraged by the creativity of our logistics team to really come up with solutions as to how they have been able to meet those needs, and it's been quite phenomenal. We established evacuation centres, what we call CDCs, and we manned those to their capacity. They have now scaled down, and we're considering more appropriate accommodation needs for those who are affected, really to give them that quiet and privacy that they need to come to terms with their situation. But our CDC in Centennial Hall remains on standby. It's closed, but remains on standby. We have established some waste services, and you'll understand with wheelie bin operations up and running and the ability for people to take material to the landfill. We've also put in place food waste disposal. That is a really big issue for everyone affected. More's coming online. There is quite a lot of different waste disposal streams that need to come online. So Regional Council have already responded around dead animals and agrochemicals. Work is coming on for silt, farming infrastructure like wires and posts and fences, that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of disposal streams that still need to be put up and running, but they are imminent. The planning is well advanced on them. And I must say that that is not just us, that we are working in partnership here with Regional Council and with the Regional Civil Defence Response. Also, we have cleaned and repaired some of our critical infrastructure as far as we can. We've put in place workaround solutions to have our city operating. And I've asked Russell to step up with me today so he can give you a bit more of an insight into our infrastructure. And I must say that, our efforts are very much connected together with police, FENZ, Te Whatu Ora, and under that command of that Regional Civil Defence Response. We have managed many events since the rain stopped, when it did stop, and the flooding started to dissipate, and that's why we're still in a response mode. And to give you an example of that, the day before last, I was on duty, and at about 11 o'clock we had two significant events. One was the potential of a dam bursting, and the other one was the potential of airborne contaminants and pathogens into some of the dust around Awatoto and coming from the silt. So those sorts of things came up at the same time, and you need, that sort of response infrastructure around you to be able to manage that quickly. They're all contained now, and it's fine. But that came after a couple of settled days where we had just started to rock back a little, and so we need to be aware of the stuff. We have rain, and there is rain now from now till Saturday. We are aware that there is a rain watch out at the moment, which may escalate to a rain warning this afternoon. There is a lot of modelling and forecasting going on under urgency by the Hawke's Bay Regional Council. The information, and at lunchtime today we will get which is not far away, we will get a greater update on this. We've communicated this to the wider region. We are monitoring it, and we will take all necessary action if any action is required once we have this update. What I was told yesterday afternoon is that the channels that we have can handle what is modelled and forecast for now. There are some vulnerabilities, of course, in our stock banks around Taradale and Awatoto. The Regional Council have a rapid repair program going on into those vulnerabilities, and they're looking to stop them up even further. But at this stage, all information suggests that the rainfall that will be coming, the intensity of it, can be handled by our channels. But those vulnerabilities remain, and if we need to take further action, we will. In Awatoto particularly, it's a confluence of the intensity of the rain with the tides as well. It's something that we have to keep an eye on. So moving to the next few days, we have started turning our minds to recovery, and while the EOC is still consolidating, we're also focusing on getting the wider council up and running and transferring a lot of the response activities to business as usual for council, and it's been great working on this side with council in that way. I think that is well advanced, and recovery planning is well advanced in its thinking. It's about getting to a more enduring approach for council to serve its community. Response will come to an end, and that's when that takes over for our community. It certainly feels like, you know, that Monday night, it feels like it was 3 years ago now, but actually it wasn't that long ago, and you know, I've been amazed at in the short time how much we have been able to do and how far advanced the community itself is in terms of their response and recovery. I must say that our civil defence efforts have been in partnership with those communities who themselves have achieved what they've achieved, and it's been quite extraordinary. I also give, when I talk about civil defence, we're also talking about council services like the depot and their customer services team and our infrastructure teams. They're all components of that civil defence response. We have the food, supplies, the response infrastructure to handle the next few days. We're ready to respond. We're in that more considered approach now. And I'm acutely aware of your role as politicians, and I just want to say that we have done the very best we can, and we will continue to do the very best we can. We are one team, and I felt that really strongly over the last couple of weeks working with you guys. And you know, last week in some of the early hours of the mornings when you would pop your head into the operations centre, I would see your faces, and I absolutely knew that you did everything you absolutely could to, and are still doing that, and I want to thank you. So I'm happy to hand over to Russell now to give you a more in-depth idea of our infrastructure issues and any questions you have. Thanks.
Sorry, yes, yeah, no, thank you. Just reiterating Rachel's comments there that, yeah, we really appreciate the support. We felt that through the response, and yeah, no, it's really good to see. Excuse me. Some of the more, I think we've skipped over some of the things I was going to talk about in the solid waste stream. So we've Redcliffe transfer stations up and running as of 12:40 yesterday. So we've got that where we can start receiving household flood waste, and also so that the general public can dispose of this waste at the transfer station. We've waived the fees until further notice on that to help with the recovery, as we did after the flood response. The residential food waste, there was an organic waste. We had 6 sites around the city that have been running and been well received by the community. And that's Ecogas has been receiving that waste and disposing of it rather than putting it in the landfill and creating more, gas from the landfill. We've decided we've been composting and processing that through, and that's been taken up to Reparoa. So obviously the long way to get up there. So they've been great. They're also helping with the Awatoto industrial area with their liquid wastes down there as well, where because of the issue with the plant, and we can't process those. So they've been doing well there. Curbside recycling, yeah, that's up and running as from Monday. Recycling, we've suspended services until we
We just felt it was just a lower priority waste stream at the moment, but that is definitely on our books to get up and running, and we're still dealing with some of the other waste streams first. One of them is the silt waste. We're working with Regional Council and the Ministry for Environment around that processing of those, because some of those are, well, some of the silts are okay, but some have some maybe some contaminants, and we're yet to work out what those and how to process those, so we've got to handle those with care. Also, we're looking at starting up a foreshore, the beach cleanup. That is looking at kicking off tomorrow. So we've got 2 companies that we're working with, Drainways and SCL, and also Dave Briggs, he's a traffic management company, helping work with those 2 companies and with the workforce. So we've got a process of working with Regional Council to dispose of that timber waste and tidy up those areas. So we're just asking the public to steer clear of those. There's a bit of organic matter in there with a lot of apples, onions and other things that are degrading, and we just, we need to manage that public health risk. So we're trying to clean it up before people's dogs get into it. So also, obviously the water supply, we're still only running on 4 bores, so we're getting the 2 Awatoto bores assessed. They had about 6 inches of water go through the new plants, but the electrical components are all off the floor, but we're just getting those assessed and looking at bringing those back online. So we're still asking people to conserve water. That's why the restrictions are still on. We're just not at full capacity yet, and we just don't want to run the system and just stress it. So stormwater pump stations, we've got 2 sites on mains power. The other critical sites are still running on generators, so we're just wanting to ensure that those are, keep those so that runs through the rain event that's forecast. Wastewater network. So we've got all pumps in the sewer network operational. So that is, it's all getting discharged through the ocean outfall. We've got the treatment plant is unfortunately still without power and not functioning. We've got a bypass running there, and we've in communication with a regional council around under, I think it's 330, section 330, it's an emergency requirement to do that. So, but we are definitely, we've got another group of engineers, structural, electrical specialists looking at the plant. They're in there doing another site visit today, seeing what we need to do to get that plant up and running. We've had 1.5 metre to 2 metres of, sorry, 1.5 metre to 2 metres of water, floodwaters go through that plant. And we've had a lot of electrical cabinets being damaged and by the floodwaters. I'd just like to take the opportunity too also to acknowledge the 4 operations staff that were caught up at the plant. It was, so when the floodwaters came through, they were unfortunately caught up on the 2nd floor. So, and I appreciate the response. I think they were got out by boat. They had to get out the top balcony out of the smoker room. So it's quite a story from the operators, and I really appreciate the efforts to get those guys back out. So transport, we're sort of back up and running there. So the traffic lights are back on. The roundabouts they worked really well, and I really thank the community for patience at those intersections. And yeah, that's about it. Sorry, any questions?
Thanks. Thunis, welcome. Did
Yeah,
you
I
want
think
to update?
Thunis might want to say something,
Yeah.
but I just wanted to say my observations of council and staff and the people and everyone else who joined us in the EOC and working at the depot and everywhere else that we had sort of hubs. No one was there for a job. Everyone was absolutely there for their community. They worked tirelessly and to their own individual limit. In fact, some of the times we had to struggle to get them out the door off shift or get them to have a day off. You know, they were just that focused and dedicated to what they're doing.
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify. I may have slipped up there on the recycling. The recycling services are suspended at the moment. I think I said, did I say Monday? I apologise. So we have suspended that service until further notice. Sorry. Yep.
Good afternoon, councillors. Just thought I'll give you a quick update because we did have a discussion yesterday, but I think it'll be good to just give you an update where we are at of this morning. So the first thing is that we've got 4 of our facilities are open as of today. The Taradale Library opened up on Monday, so that's running well. We've got Part 2 Golf as open as well, and that's free entry from today until Sunday, as well as Bayskate is also open today, also free entry for the 4 days. Hope our young, our youngsters use this opportunity and go and enjoy those facilities. And then we've also got the eyesight open as of today. We then have a few facilities that's closed, and the first one, well, it's closed for the normal activities that we've got. So the Kennedy Park, as we know, that's not open for for the tourists to book. It's for civil defence, set aside for that, and also displaced community members. And the Faraday Centre is closed because basically all their staff are deployed in civil defence. And the Napier Library, it's the same. Our staff is working in civil defence. And Centennial Hall, including McLean Park, is used for civil defence activities. And McLean Park, because it's so close to the hall, it's we need to bring take that into consideration for any event that may happen there in the near future. Then just what we will do is you will see the updated list of facilities that will open and when they open. So we have a staggered approach to that to also think about and just take into consideration our infrastructure so that we just don't start everything immediately. Just then our housing, all the units has got electricity. There's only a few of them that doesn't have hot water at this stage, but Unison is working on that to rectify that. There's another letter drop happening either today or tomorrow to bring them up to speed as well. And information that I received this morning was that the support services are really helping the people in these units with food, parcels, and also social assistance. And then just our community and safety, our community strategy unit is basically closed. They're all in welfare, helping out with that. I just want to mention one principle that we've discussed yesterday with you as councillors, and that is that our events and conferences, we are only looking at local people using it. So it's not bringing in external groups or people. We do have some people that's quite upset about that, but unfortunately, council made the right decision to, at this point, it's not the right time to have these external groups coming in, but we do want to support our local groups and sport clubs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Thonis. And I guess further to that last comment, yes, we do need to prioritise our local community at this time, but we are also aware that it's important to move forward once we are in our recovery phase, and that some of these external events are very important to our local economy and our local businesses. So that is a decision that we will be reviewing on a regular basis, and when we are confident that our local community and their welfare needs are being met, then we will reconsider allowing those external events to recommence.
Correct.
So thank you. I'm really conscious that Rachel in particular has given up some much needed rest time. So I am just going to draw this to a close now. We do receive regular updates, obviously, from the whole team, and I know that the councillors are working hard to ensure that the information we get is fed out to their networks in the community. Just as some final comments, as I've been sitting here, I've looked around the room and I've realised that every single person in this room has at some stage been part of our emergency response team. So thank you to all of you for being here today to support us with this extraordinary council meeting. I do want to just say thank you to a couple of individuals that are here. Firstly, Lance Titter, who is the director of our city services team, and it's his team that are out in the weather, clearing drains, doing a million and one other things I can't even begin to start listing, and I know that they have been working tirelessly and continue to do so. So Lance, thank you to you and thank you to all of your team. They are absolute heroes. And also to our acting chief executive, Richard Minica, who of course would never have envisaged that when you put your hand up to support our organisation as the acting chief executive, you would end up having to be the chief executive during a not only local state of emergency, but national state of emergency. Thank you for everything you have done and everything you've done to support us as councillors and the whole of our organisation. And then lastly, thank you to all of the councillors. I know what you've been doing out there, and your role has been to connect with our community, to check on them, to feed information back into our team so that they can then get cracking on responding to those needs. So I know every single person within the organisation has had a role to play and everyone's stepped up and excelled. So thank you to everyone. Once more. I can't say thank you enough, in fact. So that brings us to the conclusion of our meeting, and if we could stand and oh, sorry, we do just need to receive this report. So I will move the report from the chair, seconded by Councillor Mawson. Just about lost your name there for a moment. Sorry, Grego. I don't have anything further to add. Would anyone else like to make any closing comments? Councillor Crystal.
I'd just like to thank you, Kirsten. That's it.
Okay, I will put the motion to receive the report. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. And we will close with our closing karakia. Ki tau te rangamare, ki runga i ngā iwi katoa o Ātereri, kia piki ki ora, te kaha me te māramatanga, i ngā wā katoa, te ei mauri ora. Thank you.